Okay, so again, welcome. I appreciate you all being with me tonight. And yes, Lori, I will tell you where I'm going to post this recording when I get to that page, and I'll tell you about exactly where you can find it. Thank you for asking that question. You bet. All right, so this session is specifically targeted for elementary educators and how these changes are going to impact you and what you do in your classrooms. So please, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to pop it into the chat, or I'll stop periodically and say, do you have any questions on the information I just gave you, so you don't have to wait till the very end and have all this stuff. So we'll just kind of work together on that. All right, so I'm going to start with just a little background history of how we got to where we are with computer science education in Nevada. We're going to talk about Senate Bill 200 and the requirements that were put into law this past July or June. What this looks like as far as implementing it in your schools, suggested computer science pathway that you could consider in your district, teacher endorsement licensing changes that are coming down the pike, which I'll just say from the get-go, there's no additional endorsements that you need at the elementary school level. Okay, absolutely none. You folks all do enough, right? So we're looking at professional development. So I'll talk to you about that when we get to it. I just don't want anybody to panic. Resources I'm going to provide for you on some things that you can use in your classroom. We're going to talk a little bit about the technology standards revision that's coming down the road here, and then give you my contact information and ask for questions. So that's kind of where we're going to go with this. All right, so a little background history. I'm hoping you can all see my screen, my slides here. Back in 2015, the K-12 computer science framework development began. That team of folks got together throughout the nation to develop this framework. It includes implementation strategies in districts, how to build standards from the framework, and all sorts of interesting, wonderful things in there. Nevada actually had a computer science team that was a part of this framework development as reviewers, and so it's really nice to know that we were there at the table at the very beginning when all of this rolled out. In 2006, the National K-12 Computer Science Framework was published, so it became national, out there for everybody to have. It's you can Google that and it'll take you to the site where you can actually see the entire framework. In 2016, Nevada joined the National ESEP Alliance, Expanding Computing Education Pathways. And what this did for us was put us with other states and their representatives, their teams of folks who are implementing the same things that we are, that there are laws and funding, and what does this look like in our districts, in our classrooms. And it allowed Nevada to partner with other folks and collaborate with them, best practices and so forth. And so it's been a huge assist to us in implementing thus far our computer science initiatives, and we will remain members of that alliance and move forward with that. In May of 2017, the computer science position at the Department of Ed, the one that I hold, was created and filled so that there was a point person at the department that can be used as a resource and help facilitate regulations and policies and standards writing and all of that, and keep that glue to keep it all together. In June of last year was when the bill was actually signed by Governor Brian Sandoval and went into law. So those items that we're going to talk about are the things that are currently in law, and they have varying effective dates when they have to be in place. So we'll talk about that too. In July, of last year, this computer science team that I told you about, they were called a task force at that time, that were reviewers on the actual framework. A section in the bill states that a computer science subcommittee would be formed, and so it was a natural transition for this computer science task force to become this subcommittee, and they are under the Governor's Office of Science, Innovation, and Technology. In July of 2017 also, the national CSTA standards were announced. So that's the Computer Science Teachers Association. So the national standards, which were built off the framework, became the standard for the nation regarding computer science education. And then in August of last year, we had our Nevada K-12 computer science standards developed. And again, those were built off of those national CSTA standards, which were built off the framework. So you can see how it all fit together, the building blocks. In September of 2017, professional development began for our computer science discoveries and computer science principles courses at the secondary level. And then just this past December, part of Senate Bill 200 includes funding allocations for the biennium. So our fiscal year 18 funding allocation process began, and so the districts and charters in rurals were able to receive funds to work with broadening the computer science education. In January of this year, our computer science standards were approved by the state board and have moved into the regulatory phase. So if you go out to the site that I'm going to show you in a minute to look at those standards, they will still say proposed on them. But I just want you to know that those standards are in place. They were approved by the state board. They only say draft proposed because they have to finish the regulatory phase. So they are in the frame that you will use to inform your course developments. Okay, and then the regulatory phase should be completed by June when they go before the state board, the regulations. In March, the COPS workshop approved. That's our Commission on Professional Standards, or our licensing and regulations, approved changes to move forward on the computer science endorsements. And then just this month, the FY19 funding allocation process began. So your districts at this moment are building out their strategies and how they want to use the funding for this next year. And I'll show you in a minute where that application is on the grants page of the department, and then you can talk to your district representatives to see how you could be included in that process and that plan. All right, so our mission for what we're lovingly termed CS4NV is to provide engaging and rigorous computer science education for all students in our state. So we've had computer science education for a while now, and it's been at the CTE level in high school. So you would have a student, perhaps has an interest in computer science, decides to take that course as an elective, first time that they've ever seen computer science, first introduction, and then they like it or they don't, and they move on, and there you go. Or they have great aptitude, and a counselor or teacher has recommended that they go into an AP course with computer science. So that's kind of been how that process has happened to this point. But as we see with the digital age that we live in, the careers that we have now and how they're all changing due to technology, they're very much more technology-based, and the career experiences that our kindergartners are going to see when they graduate from high school in 2030 or whatever the year is going to be vastly different than even what we have right now. So trying to target a training for a specific career doesn't really make sense. But we do know that all students at some point in their future upon graduation are going to have to understand computer science at some fundamental level. All students, despite their gender, their ethnic diversity background, any disabilities that they may have, anything. This has become a part of their reality. And so our goal and our mission is that they're not only just consumers of technology, using their phones like they do, but that they're creators of it, that they understand the inner workings. Our vision is that they're informed citizens, that they can engage in public discussion on computer science topics in a logical, understandable fashion, that they develop as learners, users, creators of computer science, that they understand the role that computing plays in their environment globally, and that they learn to perform and express themselves in other subject areas, because computer science is interwoven in any subject area that they plan to take post-secondary, in any career path that they choose. This is just, like I said, this is their world now. So you probably hear robots are replacing all jobs. Well, that's not the case. It's not going to replace all jobs. All occupations are going to have some element of computer technology associated with them, though. And so, and it's going to require this new skill, aside from just using it, as I said. But I will tell you that the jobs that are on some level routine, repetitive, and predictable, studies have shown that those are the most likely to be replaced with technology. So a student that's learning computer science today, they're going to be prepared for whatever comes in their future. And so that's why Nevada is so confident that as we make these changes in our education for our students, that it is going to definitely help prepare them for their future. We were just chatting when we came on about this is testing season, right? Our kids are being tested constantly. What are they being tested on? This is the question they asked. Are we testing equitably across all levels with our students? Are we actually testing their content knowledge, or are we testing their ability to use a computer when they take those online tests? This was the impetus for Section 3 of Senate Bill 200, was to provide this equity of access to computer technology education for when our students need it the most. And they're starting in elementary at a very young age, taking these online tests. Is it fair to test a student's ability to access the test, and they're concerned about the use of the mouse versus a student that's had a computer at home and is very proficient? So that anxiety alone could affect how well they do. So these were some of the things that were discussed when this bill was produced. So I have on this slide, I have 3 links here. The first link is the link to the official Senate Bill 200 document in its entirety. There's a lot of legalese in there, but it's very easy to read. The second link is an overview of the bill on the department's website that is divided up by section of where the changes are. And then the third link is to the STEMhub site that we're going to visit, and I'll show you. And I've taken the bill and actually broken it down by effective date, because the bill has different sections, and one is effective this year, another is 2020, and then the section might be 2022. So for clarity, I just divided it up that way. So we will go and visit these. First, I'll show you the department site. So here's where you can access the standards. I'll also show you where to access them on the STEMhub site. But under educators, Nevada Academic Content Standards, and then you'll choose computer science, and it'll take you to this page. And these links here, here's computer science, and this is the current computer technology standards that we have. There's some other resources on here as well. Senate Bill 200 broken down by the sections that I spoke about. There's frequently asked questions. If you'd like to know who the subcommittee members are, and then calendar of events, and then licensing changes. Oh, I'm sorry. Looks like Tara could not get on. Okay. I'm going to let her know to try calling. Okay. On the STEM Hub, Nevada STEM Hub, so it's stemhub.nv.gov/cs4nv. There are a lot of resources on here as well. We're going to take a look at this. There's going to be some for students. We'll come back to the educators tab and we'll talk about that. But I'm going to jump to the state advocacy because that's where I have the bill. All right. So effective last July, these first two here apply to high school pretty much. The third one is the subcommittee that I spoke about, and there's a link to the board members. And you can see this fourth section, the breakdown on the appropriations, the funding from the bill for the fiscal year 18, so the first year of the biennium. And you can see how that was broken down. For this next year, so this year, starting July 1st, this is where some of the things happen that affect you folks here at the elementary level. So this first one, before beginning 6th grade, so K through 5, all students are required to receive instruction in computer education and technology. Okay, I'm going to jump back over to my slides here so I can talk about that a little bit further. I'll use this one. All right, so when the bill speaks of computer education and technology, it's talking about this big block here, the big subject area, which comprises the technology standards that we have in place right now from 2010, and also, which commonly known as the ISTE standards, and also comprises the new K-12 computer science standards. So when you go back to what the bill says, that before beginning 6th grade, all students required to receive instruction in computer education and technology, it's talking about that entire group, okay? Both of those legs. And I'll when I get to that slide, I'll kind of show kind of what that would look like, okay? The next one is something at the high school level. If you have any friends that teach middle school or high school, that affects them because there's changes right now in that course. It's commonly known as a computer literacy course. That's a high school credit, but primarily taught in middle school, which includes the keyboarding and the word processing and spreadsheets and so forth. But as I mentioned before, we need to have those skill sets taught sooner for our students so that they have access to the keyboard and learning how to do that properly. And Google Apps for education, we have our Google Docs and slides and so forth. And so introducing and using that on a regular basis earlier. So this will change at that high school level. For funding for this year, Clark has $800,000, Washoe has $200,000, and then the rurals and charters will have $400,000 to share amongst them in a non-competitive grant method. So this is where you could reach out to your district folks who handle your grants and so forth, and see if, ask questions about what their plan is, how you can become a part of that and help you with your course up here that you need to do. And then the fourth one, computer science and computer education and technology professional development. That is going on right now. That has been for a while, and I'll show you where you can access PD for that. This next one is where it says it adds computer science and computational thinking to the computer education technology standards. As I already indicated, we're actually ahead of this effective date because we already have those standards in place for computer science and computational thinking, along with the technology added to the computer ed tech. And then this last one here, the department, in consultation with that subcommittee group of members, will review all instruction and make recommendations to the Nevada State Board. So currently, the approved curriculum for computer science by the State Board to date includes our code.org suite of curriculum. So the CS Fundamentals is available at the elementary level, and I'll talk about what that training looks like in a minute. CS Discoveries for middle and CS Principles for high school. If there's other curriculum that you, as a school, an educator, would like to see implemented, such as Project Lead the Way, some of the schools already have that, and so forth. They just need to go through the adoption process, and you can handle that by contacting your district. All right. So let me jump over to actually the educator site. The rest here, 2020 and 2022, are more for our secondary educators. And then likewise, the half credit course that's changing is secondary. So let's jump over to the educators tab, and let's talk about the PD that I just mentioned. So at the elementary school level, there's code.org training through RPDP, currently being offered. It's Computer Science Fundamentals. It's a one-day training. Remember, I mentioned that in elementary you don't need to have a special endorsement or anything for computer science, but obviously training is going to become very important. So this is offered. Curriculum is free. The training is free. And I believe I've heard that RPDP is actually going to schools and training entire staff. So there's a link there for more information on the curriculum itself, and then links to the folks at RPDP who are handling that professional development. Okay, and then I also have a link here for the computer science standards where you can grab it, the full version. I will tell you that hopefully you've all had a chance to look at them. If not, I will say that the full version, the standards are broken down K through 5 by grade level. So kindergarten, you have your set of standards. First grade, you have your set. And on each one of them has connections to the other core subject areas. So math, ELA, science, and social studies. So it will help you as you are teaching those standards in the classroom to tie them back into maybe math. So maybe you're teaching something in math that ties in with the computer science, so you can bring the vocabulary in and kind of bind it all together without too much extra effort. A lot of the computer science standards, especially in the younger age group, can be taught off of the computer. We call it an unplugged way, because you're at the very young level trying to teach them terminology. So for example, if or when you teach steps on processes, how to follow steps, well, that's an algorithm. Okay, so now you're using a computer science term that, as students grow in their knowledge using the same terminology over and over, they know that a set of instructions is called algorithm. Okay, so it's very simple starting that way. The condensed version of the standards is in a table format, so you can see the alignment across the grade levels of the standards. Okay, Then when you get to your secondary, those are in grade bands because we know those are different format in their day. All right, so they still will say proposed draft, but like I said, once they go through the regulatory process, they complete that in June, I'll remove that and they'll just say standards. Okay, but that's a little bit of background on that. I'm going to stop right there and ask if there are any questions that have popped into your mind. The chat's been quiet, so I just want to see if there are anything burning that you want to talk about. So go ahead and unmute yourself and just ask. Sounds like we're all doing good. Okay, I like that. All right, so a little bit more about the standards. The 5 major concepts for the K-12 computer science standards are algorithms and programming. Remember we said algorithms, that's a list of instructions. Computing systems, so how all of these devices and everything, how it all works together, what's the impact on society with the use of this computer or computing. Data and analysis. Our world is all about big data now. Gathering it, organizing it, analyzing it, visualizing it, making decisions based on the data that we have. And so fundamentally tying those together will help the students. And then, of course, networks and the internet. How does all this work? Taking the mystery away from it. Okay, so I get this question a lot, or this comment actually, is, well, why do we need computer science standards? We've been teaching tech standards all these years. We already have it. But this graph will kind of explain what computer science is and versus what it's not. So computer science is understanding why and how computers work. We're creating programs, not just using them on our devices. So some examples given there: programming an app or a game, creating interactive data visualizations, creating simulations for how diseases spread and how we can make inferences and to help society in that respect. Building a computer system, computing's impact on society, how it can make lives better in a third world country by creating systems. What it's not is using computers to perform everyday tasks. So keyboarding, using the internet, creating a PowerPoint or a movie, editing photos, or using apps that are created by other people. Okay, so that's more of our definition of our productivity tools and our technology applications. Any questions on that? Excuse me. Thank you. No questions? You guys are a quiet group. That's because you've been talking all day with your kids. I totally get it. All right, so we talked about this, how it all fits together, the pieces of the 2 different standards, and how this works. We talked about what you need to do. Here's the allocation breakdown from last year, which you can see that on the STEMhub site as well. And then on the grants page, if you're interested, the application is up for this fiscal year 19, so you can see kind of what we're looking for as far as grant applications. He closes at the end of this month. Basically, what we're looking for is when your districts or your charters put in applications that, as you can see, every time we talked about the bill, it was professional development. So that is a high priority with the lawmakers when they created these changes. So when your district puts in an application for the grant allocation, it must include a large component of professional development for you. it's different than in some of the tech ed grants that we typically see, where folks are trying to get equipment for their schools. And I also want, understand that in order to do things, you need to have those devices and equipment. So that can be a component, yes, but there needs to also be professional development in computer science education for the teachers, not just asking for equipment. And sometimes I hear, well, there's going to be PD on it, how to use the computer and the software that's on it. That's not what I'm talking about. So you folks need these resources. You need this professional development to help you be the most effective in integrating this into your classes, and in a seamless way. It's not adding any additional burden or work to you. So PD is what I'm looking for when they apply for these grant funds. Like I said, it closes at 5 o'clock on the end of this month. Awards will be sent out in May, by the end of May. June 1st, they can start submitting requests for approval with their budgets and so forth, and then they're ready to start purchasing their items July 1st. So hopefully you'll have them in your classrooms before long. The funds have to all be spent by June 30th of next year. All right, so I already showed you on the STEM Hub site. This site's going to be your friend, but that's where I'm posting professional development that's available to you, and links to the standards and everything. And again, no required endorsements for elementary teachers, but professional development definitely encouraged. All right, so this question, and it may be more for your admin as well, but I also wanted to pose this question to you. So where do I put this computer education technology coursework? This is a suggested computer science pathway. So like I said, in K5, your computer science standards are broken down by grade level. I put the number of standards that are there. And so with the connections, they're easy to integrate into your classroom. A lot of them are unplugged. I don't know what this would look like at each individual school. I couldn't say that because that's a district call, plus the resources available at your school. You may have someone who's in your computer lab, a computer technology specialist that sees all the students every year. It may be a librarian. It could be something else. I don't know. What I do know is that kids learn little by little over time as they see things more and more. So layering and building upon these standards year after year, using the terminology over and over, will help them embed that into their minds, so that it just becomes a way of life for them. But I don't know at your resources, at your schools, how that would look. But I do know the overall goal is that our K-5 students have those skills necessary to succeed in their secondary levels and beyond. And one of the biggest things that I see with a lot of our youngsters is they're jumping on these devices, and they're getting on the social media, even at a very young age. Even though they say 13 years old is the age, we know they have older siblings that they get on there and they don't have an understanding of simple password usage and protecting those things, and how much information that they're putting out there. And so these are some of the topics that these standards address. And so it's become more and more important that we start younger and younger, that they understand those and the ramifications. And then they can jump into, in secondary level, the cybersecurity issues and all of that. But at least they'll have that foundation, rather than, like I said earlier, going into high school, and that's the first experience they've had with an elective computer science course. So it's very important. Before I go into the resources, any questions about any of that? You still doing good? Still with me? All right. Okay, resources for you. We have a brand new chapter, first ever in our state for computer science teachers. It's a Computer Science Teachers Association. And welcome to the club, because we are now all computer science teachers in one way, shape, or form. It offers free membership. I'd encourage you folks to seek out these board members and they have a website, so Google that and go out to their website. But it's free membership. They offer a mentor program, so you can have a mentor that will help you in your journey. They have regular meetings, they have resources, and they are open to any kind of suggestions that would help make your lives easier. So they are there as a resource for you. Another big resource is the site that I just showed you, the stemhub.nv.gov/csfornv. There is an email sign up on there, so please do go ahead and do that, because then as things are updated in the state, as new initiatives have come forward with computer science, you can be on that newsletter blast so you can hear about it first. And then, of course, the department site. There's a lot of information on there. Frequently asked questions. Please take a look at that document. There may be some questions you don't know that you have. There's one designated just for elementary, so that might help you. I'll have guidance documents up there. And this one, Instructional Materials Resource Center. That's where a lot of resources are for English, ELA and math and so forth. And there will be a build out for computer science on there very shortly as well, as we build out those resources. All right, so you know about the ISTE standards, I'm sure, and the site and the computational thinking resources that they have added there as well will help you in your district as you build out your course and your plan for that technology class. And here's another resource book that I have read and I really liked, and it's especially well written for the elementary level. So this will give you some ideas on how to get started and just what is this whole computational thinking, computer science thing anyways. This was a very good resource book for you. And then here's some additional resources that you could use in your classroom that you can integrate. These are not curriculum. These are resources. So they can be implemented as part of a larger curriculum. The only difference is like your fundamentals, that's a curriculum. Okay, and here's some more as well. All right, so coming up in June, we have the first ever statewide computer science summit. And we have Dr. Canavero, the state superintendent, will be speaking about computer science in Nevada, where we are, where we're heading. We'll have a national speaker from code.org who will be talking on a national level, the movement in computer science and where Nevada fits in there, actually. And then we're going to have other resources such as, after school clubs that can be started to foster female interest, for example, in computer science and things such as that. We are expecting teams from the different districts to come, and they'll have their superintendent, high-level district folks from the 30,000 feet to administrators at elementary, middle, and high school, educators such as yourself, elementary, middle, and high school, counselors, just that whole well-rounded, rich discussion from that group of that district, so they can work together to plan a strategy for broadening computer science throughout your district. So it will help to have all of those different voices and perspectives when they do that. So I encourage you to reach out to your district representative to see if you're interested in getting on that team, if they haven't already decided who that is. I know the registration closes on May 11th for this, so do it sooner rather than later if you would like to participate. And if you were part of a rural district that did not receive funding, then there are ways to receive vouchers for that, for travel. All right, and then also I had briefly mentioned our current K-12 computer technology standards were written back in 2010, so they're well overdue to be updated here in the fall. So if that's something that you would like to be a part of, so please send me an email, and those applications to be part of that writing team will be going out shortly. And this next fiscal year 19 funding allocation can cover travel for a team of folks. So please check with your district representatives. And so we'll be rewriting this portion right here. And that will also help affect what you will be doing at your level. All right, so that's pretty much an overview on all of the changes. Did anyone have any lingering questions that they wanted to discuss, or anything about what you've heard? And I'll put up my contact information. I did have the question about emailing the recording to us. What I'm going to do is I will post this on the STEM Hub website so that you can review back to it. And I'll also put this slide deck so you'll have that as a reference as well. Okay. Any questions? Anything I can help you with? How are you feeling about this? Let me gauge your level of anxiety. Feel free to type in the chat if you don't want to speak out to the whole group. Are there any lingering concerns? Okay, so I did have a question. Person is signed up for the secondary educator session tomorrow. Will it be the same information? It will be, the background information will be the same, the processes. It'll be a little bit more detailed with the requirements of Senate Bill 200 that impact secondary. Yes. All right. No other questions? I'm hoping that's a sign that you are feeling confident and no longer anxious about these changes coming. But if you do think of a question after we close, then please feel free to send me an email. Rob asked, am I going to talk about endorsements? I can definitely do that. Let's go over those very briefly. So I'm back on the STEM Hub site, and I am under the Educators tab right here. And under new licensing requirements for computer science. All right, so previously in the past, we had 3 endorsements. One of them is being repealed, and then we'll just go down to 2. So the endorsement to teach computer science and applications, that's at the middle school level, primarily taught right now. And although it's a high school graduation requirement. So if you have folks who are currently teaching that in middle school, which is usually known as computer literacy, they're fine. They can continue to teach it. These endorsements are for new teachers coming in that want to teach these. So basically, they would need 9 semester hours. 3 would be in methods for teaching computer science. 3 would be in a course of study on computer science concepts. And 3 more, a course on methods to teach computer applications, to include the word processing, keyboarding, and so forth. RPDP does offer all of these courses, so they are readily available. The next endorsement is to teach advanced computer science, and that is 12 semester hours. You have your methods and your concepts that were also up here. So this is a tiered approach, so a graduated growth model, if you will. So then the only difference then is an additional 6 semester hours of instruction on programming languages. And then this advanced computer science course, then you can teach typically your CTE pathway at the high school level. Now you have an option, instead of taking those 12 semester hours, that you can just take the practice exam in computer science and then pass at the competency level. And then you have that endorsement. They're going through the ratification process with these regulations, so they'll be placed into statute, but they're not there yet. But this is just for reference, so you know. And then I'm going to put together a guidance document after these regulations are placed in the statute that will say, if you teach, or if you have this endorsement, then you can teach this, this, and this. And if you have this endorsement, you can teach this and this. I will say, if you have any folks who are at the secondary level that teach either the CS Discoveries or the AP Computer Science Principles course, the professional development training, that's pretty much a year long, that's listed under the middle school and high school on the Educators PD tab, that is sufficient to teach those courses only. If you're going to be teaching any other course that your schools might offer, then you need to go through this endorsement. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Does that help, Rob? You were told that a 12-credit CS cohort starts this fall for Douglas and Carson. All right, fantastic. Excellent, I like that. Is that for the advanced? That must be the advanced computer science course then. Okay, perfect. All right.
Yeah, I got the impression it was the advanced.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would be your probably the
12 credits.
Yeah, so is it, where is it being taught?
I was just told by Rob Marr and Jackie that they're going to start the cohort this fall, and it's supposed to be those 12 credits as far as they understand and I understand.
Okay, so there's not necessarily a cohort for these complete 12 credits, but I do know that RPDP in the fall, I just spoke with them, will be offering at least 2 of the courses in the fall and 2 more in the spring. So that could be what they were referencing. The cohort, as that term is used, is if you are in the cohort that's taking the PD for either CS Discoveries for middle school or CS Principles for high school. And what that looks like is you have a week-long training in your cohort, and then you have 4 follow-up trainings each quarter. And then at the end of that training, you can get a certificate that shows you did that, you can upload to the new online licensing system that the department has, or you have that option to get the credit for it through, I believe it's UNLV. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Great.
Do you know what the 2 languages, computer languages that are being used for the requirement?
Yeah, it's funny you should ask. So I spoke with RPDP today. So Java is definitely one of them, and the reason being is that the third level class in course, excuse me, in the CTE pathway is AP Computer Science A, and that is a college board exam that's all about Java. So that's why that's the first language they're doing.
So they don't
And
use C++ like the colleges around here do.
um, no, not for that exam. Mm-mm, no.
Hmm.
So right now, the CTE uh, end of course exam has C++ in it. So it's currently being taught, but that will be going through a revision in the next year or so. So
Being
that's
changed to Java.
Java's already in it as well in the end of course for the CTE pathway. So it was Java and C++ as part of that
Oh,
assessment.
okay. So what's the other language then they're going to be looking at? If it's
Um,
one's Java, the other would
yeah,
be.
I asked them that same thing, and they're not sure at this point
Oh,
what they're
okay.
going to do. Yeah, yeah. So
All in
that's
work in progress.
it is a work in progress. That's right. We're going to be very patient as all of the pieces come together. Um, but I do know that they're going to try and make it an offering that perhaps maybe a middle school teacher would be interested in taking as well to help them, or even elementary. Any of these courses are open to anyone to take, just for your own knowledge, because that could help you get a broader picture on everything.
Okay.
Christine, I don't want to forget you. I'm a computer aide, and this has been very informative, opened a lot of resources I didn't know about. Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that. And I just want you all to know that I am here and available to you as a resource as well. So you have your district folks, but you also have me. So sometimes we grease the wheel from the bottom, sometimes it's from the top. And however it gets those resources into your hands that's all that we care about. Okay, so anything that I can do to help you on either end, please reach out to me, phone call, email, whatever you need. Okay, I'm here for you. Because I was in the classroom for 12 years. I get it. I understand. I taught CTE over that time, and I had about 7 preps for my coursework too, and they were all different. And that's pretty similar to what you folks do in the elementary classroom. So I totally understand. Very overwhelming. So, but I don't want you to panic. I don't want you to have anxiety over this, because whatever you need, I will find a way to provide it for you as far as resources. And you've got um, numerous resources throughout your districts too. Okay, but at all else, please reach out to me, and I will help in any way that I can. All right. Any other last comments or questions? If not, I'm going to let you go to spend the rest of your evening relaxing. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I do appreciate you spending this hour with me, and we will talk again, I hope. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.